Hey everyone, Alex and Rocky here today for another amazing episode at the Streamline team, where every single week we like to come at you with information on how you can better yourself, your virtual assistants, and save you time. Today we have an amazing topic. Now, for those of you who have not subscribed already, make sure you do because every week I want to give you a lot of information so you can now take it and put it into action. Rocky, what do we have for everyone this week?
Yeah, so hello everyone. So one of the things that people have, reservations about getting a virtual assistant is the fact that they will be hiring someone from outside the country, right?
Mhm.
And one of the worries is really, how to communicate with them. Are there going to be communication barriers, cultural differences, and even the difference when it comes to work ethics? So today we are going to be talking about the first aspect, which is the communication aspect. So first of all, Dr. Tam, why is it okay to hire someone outside the US as a virtual assistant?
Well, here's the thing, Rocky, is that a lot of people think, oh, should I hire from outside the US? If you think about the US in general, the population here in the US is already so diverse, right? Where having someone from outside the country, it's almost kind of like hiring someone from the US, if you think about it. Because especially here in California, and I'm sure for a lot of places as well, you've got people of all races, cultural, food, everything. Because in the US, we want that. We want to have the options where you can go somewhere and have food with from different countries and meet different people, right? So I think the biggest thing that people worry about is the language barrier. Well, Rocky, tell me a little bit more actually about people from the Philippines. English is actually something that's taught in school, right? And it's
Yes.
widely used by a lot of people in the Philippines. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so, well, English, yes, you're correct, Dr. Tam. We actually, or English is taught in school, and then, for some households, we use it as a second language. So just like me when I was growing up, I guess my parents made sure that we can understand, we can read and speak English. Good. So so that was something that was, I was brought up with, right?
Right,
And a lot of people here in the Philippines do too. That's why if you would notice, a lot of big companies have, call centers here in the Philippines because we do have, a more neutral accent, if I may say.
right.
So that's one of the, I guess, that's one of the strengths of a Filipino.
Yeah, I tell you, we have clients when I introduce them to our virtual assistants. Some of them will say, "Oh my gosh, they have better English than the people I have in my office." And they write better, grammatically is correct. But that's also, there's the flip side to it as well. Like this morning, I just had a call with a client where his VA is not showing up, right? Sometimes they call and they're not there. And he's like, yeah, I don't know what's going on. And then a lot of times they're not using spell check or grammar check, and it ends up being the other way. You know, one of the standards that I have for our assistants is making sure that during the times when you're working, that you're reachable. It's the most frustrating thing I understand for a lot of people that, hey, when you're supposed to be working but I can't reach you, that's a problem, you see. But it's very important to also let them know that ahead of time, right? One of the touch points that we have is people always ask me, well, how should I communicate with them? What tools do I use? I mean, we use Skype all the time. Some people choose to use other things, but I have found between WhatsApp, WeChat, Slack, Skype has been the top one. And then we also use Monday.com for organization. who's doing what, who's responsible for what on a day-to-day basis. Are you checking off things that you've done? And that is one of the big things, is having those two ways of communication. But then also people are able to text them, our virtual assistants as well. So even some people who are better versed through text, they're able to do that, right? Having the right method and the tools for communication is best. And making sure, I think the biggest thing is to make sure that your virtual assistant knows how to use these tools,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
Yeah. But a lot of people, a lot of virtual assistants are very versatile, right? We ask our virtual assistants to be very adaptable as well. The tools that we use are not tools that we just made up. It's tools where you can, if you really want to, you remember we talked about the will and skill, Rocky?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, if they don't have the skill but they have the will, you can learn it. YouTube, right? Or Google it. We'll figure it out, right? Yeah.
Yes. And especially that, we are thousands of miles away, communication is really very important and very important part of working together. Now, for me, another important thing is that, to make sure that I'm comfortable in, communicating with my boss, um, or, being able to, let's say, think that I can approach my boss to communicate, right? So what are your thoughts on that, Alex?
I think being approachable is huge. That works in all aspects, whether it's virtually or it's a personal level. People who do really well, um, I think, having a virtual assistant, have also trained others and work with others. It's hard. It's a bigger learning curve if you've never worked with people, right? If
Right.
someone's trying to hire a virtual assistant for the first time and they've never worked with other teams or people in their life, then it becomes harder. But being approachable as a boss, I think it's very important because you have to be open to ideas. If your virtual assistant is in the trenches, doing what they need to do, and there are new ideas that come up, it's worth listening to. There are different levels of knowledge, I would say, different steps that a person goes through. If you look at the first step coming in, your virtual assistant's not going to know anything about your business yet, right? So you really have to handhold and walk them through everything. And that's where Skype comes in. It's so cool because you can screen share and there's already a record button. People ask me, should I just Zoom? I said, you could Zoom. But when you Zoom, you have to schedule the Zoom. You both have to hop on. Whereas Skype, you just call them and then there's a record screen button. You show them everything. There's a lot more hand holding at the beginning. It's just like someone joining the company for the first time, right? What's the company? What does the company do? What does the company offer? What kind of message are we trying to convey here, right? Even as simple as data entry, to walk them through where to get the data, but also have a good understanding. I think the biggest thing is step 2. Because once they know the nitty gritty of what their tasks are supposed to be, step 2 is actually showing the VA why they should be doing this. Like the culture of the company, the why behind it is very important as well. That is step 2, is they got to know the why they're doing it. And then there's going to be a period of time that people have to understand. In step 2, your virtual assistant is going to realize how much stuff they don't know. All of a sudden,
Yes.
the reality kicks in. Holy crap, there's a lot of stuff I didn't know that I didn't know, right? And now, instead of just, hey, do this task, do this task, do this task, a lot of hand holding, it's more about the coaching. It's coaching them through, okay, this is why this is done. That's okay. It's okay you don't know it. I'm not coming in to make sure that you have to know everything. but I'm here to also side by side coach you through it as well. You might do a little bit more watching and directing, you see, versus hand holding in step two. And then in step three, that's where the virtual assistant understands, okay, now I know what to do. I've done it. I know why I need to do it. And I could just be good at doing it, right? And they could be, a lot of people get stuck. 43%, Rocky, of people get stuck in step three. They know what they need to do. They know how to do it. They know why they need to do it. But here comes step four. If you want to scale and grow, you got to have people in your company who's ready for step four. Because step four is where you take what you know and now you become innovative with it. And step four is when your staff can come to you, your virtual assistants can come to you and say, hey, and this is where that opening really becomes key. Is Rocky, as the leader, as the owner, I have to be open. If you are in step three and knowing what to do, and you step into step four and become innovative, I have to have the trust in you to say, you know what? He or she knows what they're talking about. Let me listen, you know? And those
Yes.
are really the four steps of communication that people need to really hone in on. And as a leader, people need to know about that.
Right. I definitely agree, Alex. And I guess even for coaching, if the first step really is to break down those barriers and set the tone for both parties,
Right,
right?
right.
So, what are your other tips for people who are worried about, miscommunication?
Well, I think people who are worried about miscommunication is they've also had an experience where maybe they haven't had the best communication. A lot of times we assume things, right? And we assume things based on our past, and that really sets us up for failure in the future because our brain is wired to keep us safe. And our prior experiences, if we had a bad one, your brain's going to tell you, oh, maybe you don't want to do that. You remember what happened last time, and we make assumptions to it, right? We make assumptions, and part of it sometimes could be also because we feel like we're not good communicators, you know. But if you follow the four steps of communicating, where that's how a person develops, knowing that that's how your staff is going to develop in the long run, having touch base. Like, for example, we have a morning meeting every morning. We get together, all of us, and hop on this morning meeting to talk about what was done, what needs to be done, action steps, right? And then have check ins, right? Making sure that your assistant is able to check in with you time to time, right? Hey, maybe the first week you have that check in the morning, and then you have another check in midday, right? And then maybe one more at the end of the day to debrief. That will be good to see how that person is doing first thing in the morning, midday, and at the end of the day. That could happen for the first week or two, but as time goes on, there needs to be less and less check ins. And then eventually it's just maintaining that morning meeting 10 to 15 minutes. We can all spare 10 to 15 minutes to set ourselves up for the rest of the day, right? And make sure that we're doing that consistently and we're communicating regularly throughout the day as well. Is very important to set expectations and timelines to let them know to
Hmm.
see, is that possible, right?
Hmm.
And it has to be, everyone has to be in agreement. So that's important.
I agree. And that those team meetings in the morning are very, very important because that's where we get our direction, right? And I guess one thing that I could share is that when you are um, in these team meetings and you give instructions, I think it's very important for us to be clear and concise as well as far as the instructions are concerned. Because, as they say, the clearer the information or the instruction, the faster things get done, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, clear and concise is important. And then also asking the
Right.
right questions. as well. Not only for virtual assistants, but for the boss, it's themselves. As you as the leader are asking the virtual assistants the correct questions. It's the questions determine the quality of questions determine the quality of your results. So the better questions you ask, right, the more how questions instead of a yes and no question, right? Whereas the answer could be yes or no, you ask more how questions. I think that's going to benefit the whole team, all in all.
Absolutely. All right. Okay, well, thank you very much, Alex, for giving us tips and tricks on how to better communicate with your virtual assistant. And again, to our viewers, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our channel so that we can give you more tips and tricks when it comes to starting your virtual team.
Perfect, Rocky. Thank you so much. Have a great day,
All
everyone.
right, have a
Bye
great
now.
day.